like to welcome those of you that were watching the Penn State-Boston College game, a very close one. And right here in Bloomington, Indiana, we are just midway in the first quarter. Indiana leads Michigan 3-0. I'm Mark Jones, along with Tim Brandt. Indiana marched it down the field on its first possession and scored a field goal. And that's where we stand right now. That's Beatty in motion. And Green fires incomplete for Lewis. Trent Green, the 6'4", 215-pound senior quarterback, came into this game completing 57% of his passes. 5 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Coming up a poor week last week. Now the diehard starting lineups. Another look. Pride, Kearns, McGowan, Thomas, Lewis, and Hales. That's how they started the ball game.
And a big story has been Green. He's 3 for 5, 37 yards. Took Indiana down on his first possession. He got 3 points out of it.
3 wide receivers. Handed off to Pride, and Pride is over the 20 out to the 22-yard line. Tony Henderson and linebacker Steve Morrison making the tackle. And a look at that Indiana offensive line that starts a freshman, 2 sophomores, a junior, and a senior. Now a look at the Michigan defense. Stanley, Henderson, and Aga Khan up front. The linebackers strong up the middle and on the outsides. They're led by Chris Hutchinson. And in the secondary, speed, and more speed.
Michigan has gone to its nickel back. They've got 5 defensive backs in now because Indiana's throwing the football so much.
3rd and 9. And flags thrown.
Well, it's going to be movement on the offensive line by Clay Williams, number 78. Sean Collins acted like the blitz was coming.
Dead ball. False start. Offense. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
Sean Collins, the linebacker, came up like he was blitzing. As soon as he came up to the line and cheated and feigned a movement, Williams jumped. Those are things, Mark, that cannot happen today if Indiana is hoping for an upset. There's no question they're the heavy underdog. Michigan has more talent. They cannot afford to make mistakes and put themselves in 3rd and 14.
Which is exactly where they are now. Green to pass. Lots of time, and now no time. He fumbles it. It's loose. And the Hoosiers may have gotten it back.
It's a gift. If it goes to Michigan, it's a gift. If it's Indiana, now you've got to be saying, hey, I'm living on the edge.
Boy, were they lucky. Jim Hannon, the right guard, the senior, recovered the fumble. But now Indiana will have to punt from way deep in its end zone. Matt Dyson made the big hit to knock the ball loose from Green. Jim DiGilio in for his first punt. Last week had a big week, averaged 54.5 yards per punt. This is a low returnable punt. And the ball bounces out of bounds in front of Derek Alexander. Michigan with good field position after that 32-yard punt. 3-0. We'll be right back. Well, after that poor punt, Michigan with great field position at Indiana's 36-yard line. They trail 3-0. Quick 3-step drop. The flanker screen to Derek Alexander. He can get it done. And Alexander is tackled at the 25-yard line. A pickup of 11 and a Michigan first down. Michigan had to kick off. Pardon me, they got the kickoff, and here's the field goal.
38-yarder by Scott Bunnell. This capitalized their first possession, and it could have been good from 50. So Bunnell got them on the board. But then in their second possession, they started on their own 20. The ball, after a penalty and a fumble, ended on the 4. Bad punt. And now Michigan's knocking on the boards.
Come in with 2 tight ends. They're back 3 of 3 so far this afternoon. Here's Wheatley cutting back against the grain and down to the 17. Wheatley has been bottled up so far this afternoon. That may be his longest gain of the afternoon. He has 7 rushes for 10 yards.
Absolutely. And to that point, Michigan had 9 carries for 14 yards. That's not even 2 yards a carry. Boy, I tell you, look at this. Michigan has averaged a mind-boggling 482 yards per game, 40 points. It's the best running game in the conference, and it's a big play. Quick, striking, dangerous offense.
McGee lines up in the slot. The backs are in the offset eye. Here's Wheatley. Bounces it up. Wheatley down to the 10-yard line. And another first down.
You know what happened that time? Bernard Whittington had containment on the outside. He gave a little bit too much ground when he did. Wheatley just cut it inside of him. There was no pursuit coming, and he had the big gainer.
Larry McDaniel is the injured Indiana player down on the field. McDaniel, who had 1 sack last week against Northwestern.
This is the injury. This is how it happened. There he is, McDaniel, at the top of your screen. He hurt his right leg right there. Looked like it just got cut up. I mean, it got caught on the turf as he was trying to make a block.
3-0. Stick around. Well, the injured player, Larry McDaniel for Indiana, is still down on the field on the 13-yard line. Michigan will have the ball when we get started. 1st down and 10. And make that 1st down and goal to go. The nose of the ball just on the 10-yard line.
Wheatley's last run, as you look at Larry McDonald coming off, he will now be replaced by Matt Bamba, who also missed 2 games with a sprained knee. He now comes in and takes his place. But that last play by Wheatley was the first rushing 1st down of the game.
Foster and Wheatley in the backfield. 2 tight ends in for the Wolverines. Derek Alexander split wide. The handoff is to Wheatley. And he'll get about 3 yards on that play. The tackle by Al Thurman, 6'1", 225-pound sophomore middle linebacker.
Interesting play, little trap. They pulled Kukuso, the right guard, brought him over to the left side, tried to seal off a block for him to get him through. Indiana's defense is playing quite well. It's the offense that put him backed up like this. They had that movement penalty in the line, and then Green fumbled back at the 2, and then a short punt.
Tim, that Indiana defensive line outweighed by a huge margin, too. Johnson and Shea Foster now in the backfield. 2 tight ends. He looks to Alexander on the fade. Wide open. Touchdown, Michigan. An 8-yard touchdown reception by Derek Alexander. And the Wolverines take a 6-3 lead, Tim.
Watch Alexander. He'll move inside and then break to the outside on number 17, Orton. It's a timing pattern. The ball's already in the air before he even looks, and it is just thrown perfectly by Gerbeck. Easy as that. Timing pattern, touchdown.
Something about those guys that wear number 1 for Michigan, huh?
Well, I tell you this, Derek Alexander, 147 all-purpose yards last week.
Milosevic with the extra point for the Wolverines. And it's 7-3. Alexander following the footsteps of AC and Greg McMurtry. It's 7-3. We have a good start. Come on back. Derek Alexander with the touchdown catch, and Michigan leads 7-3 with 58 seconds remaining in the 1st quarter. Mark Jones along with Tim Brent. We are in Bloomington, Indiana. That last drive by Michigan, 5 plays, 36 yards, using 1:52 on the clock.
Looked like Alexander the Great on that play. Too easy. Not supposed to come that easy.
I'll tell you, you look at him run, and he reminds you of AC. He really does. That loping stride.
He's got 4.4 speed. They put him on a timing pattern one-on-one with Jason Orton, who's a walk-on. And it was no contest because of that speed.
Thomas Lewis back deep. Milosevic with the kick. This is Lewis. And Lewis is gang tackled at the 24. Let's see how this Indiana offense reacts to that last Michigan score.
Well, again, you say they've got to have success, and the reason is this. Michigan leads this series 39-9. You talked about how many times they've won in a row. You have to go all the way back to 1987, the last time they won.
Trent Green, 3 of 5, 37 yards. We have yet to see Brett Law, one of those running backs that has been nicked up.
Mark, when a team dominates you like that, you always have doubt. So to overcome that doubt, you've got to continually have that success like they had in the first drive.
They set up trips left this time. It's Emmett Pride on the run, and he's tackled right at the line of scrimmage. No success. Speaking of success, Tim, on that play, the tackle by Tony Henderson, the nose guard from Michigan.
Well, I tell you what, too, that was a strong tackle. Henderson just came head on with him, tucked that tail, skied the eyes, and put him on his back. He's from North Central Indiana, and I mean, he is wired for this game coming home.
They lost a yard on first down to make it 2nd and 11. McGowan split to the top of your screen. Lewis low. Now he's in motion. Green looked to Lewis, and it's almost picked off by Steve Morrison. Morrison, with 2 interceptions already this year, had number 3 and couldn't find the handle. 6'3", 242-pound junior.
Boy, what a great story he is, too. You know, he's the leading tackler. You mentioned his 2 interceptions. He's got 6 for his career. But watch 36, how he runs. And while you're watching him run, let me tell you this story. He's had a lot of leg injuries. As a matter of fact, at one point in his career, doctors told him he was going to have an amputation because there was a blood clot in his leg. They couldn't get the circulation going. Look at him run now. He overcame that. I mean, he really did a good job.
A portrait of courage. It's 3rd down and 11. McGowan in motion. Green back to pass. He fires in and out of the arms of his usually reliable, tight end, Ross Hales.
Well, you're right. Normally he is reliable, and he should have caught that pass. He knows it, went right through his hands, and Green, number 12, knows it. But the bottom line is he didn't have enough for the first anyway, so they would have had to punt regardless.
So after they started this drive with their best field position of the afternoon, Indiana will have to punt. DeJulio averaging 46.6 per punt this season. Didn't quite get all of this one. Alexander. And he's tackled at the 44, a 39-yard punt, 7 on the return, and Michigan will start at the 45-yard line. Again, good field position. That's the end of the first quarter. 7-3 Wolverines. Back for the start of the second quarter, Mark Jones and Tim Brandt in Bloomington. That's Larry McDaniel, who was shaken up earlier, getting taped up, getting that knee all fixed up, and it looks like he's going to come back into the ball game.
Yeah, no question about it. At least he's going to try it. They're putting those knee braces on him, those protectors, so he's going to try to come back.
Michigan 1st and 10 from its own 44. 3 wide receivers in. The handoff out of the backfield to Jesse Johnson. And Johnson is out to the 45, and so far, one of the keys for the game that Indiana was looking to accomplish was slowing down that Michigan running game.
Yeah, no question about it. As you look at the statistics, look at this one right here. -3 rushing for Indiana. That's it. And everything else is fairly even. It has been impossible for Emmett Pride to run against the Michigan defense.
And the Michigan running backs haven't really cut loose yet either. Wheatley is the deep back in the eye. Play action. The out pattern, and it's complete at midfield. Bellman Malveaux with the reception and a first down for Michigan.
How about Gerback? He's now 5 for 5 and a touchdown. He has been flawless.
Gerback missed a couple of games earlier, suffered an ankle injury, and still is wearing a brace on that ankle.
You know, I think he's been pressing a little bit, but he looks more confident today than he has been. He's been aiming the ball, not throwing it.
First down and 10, the ball in the 45. Wheatley. He's got some room and a first down to the 34-yard line. Now back to New York, and John Saunders with this update.
Mark, in the Pac-10, UCLA and Washington State, Drew Bledsoe, probably the #1 pick if he comes out this year. Tosses to Brett Carroll 3 yards, then a 2-point conversion. It's 14-7.
All right, John, yeah, Drew Bledsoe projected as the best quarterback in the draft this year. Gerback hands it off to Wheatley. And Tyrone Wheatley now starting to find some holes in that Indiana front. The Michigan offensive line starting to come off the ball a little bit. A pickup, and now Wheatley has 11 rushes for 40 yards.
If you're an Indiana fan, Mark, you've got to be concerned now. Michigan moving at will. I'll tell you this, it is such a big, strong offensive line. Take a look at this. This is what they're going against. This is how much they outweigh the Indiana defensive front by. And what happens is now it's like running downhill. Once you get that running game going, it opens up the passing game. Gerback is now 5 for 5. And so, I mean, they can do almost anything they want now.
Good balance. Shea Foster in motion. The screen pass out to Wheatley. He's got a kick-out block. He could score. Touchdown, Tyrone Wheatley.
We talked about this quick, striking, dangerous, big play offense. That is 11 touchdowns now this year. That has gone for 25 yards or longer. 50 yards or more. But that one comes from 26, so once again, they get down near the red zone, and they score from 26 yards.
And they got a great kick-out block on this one, too. Well executed.
Not only that, but see, once again, to bring it out the lineman, you see 68 there, Kokoso. He throws a nice block. Now, Wheatley doesn't even have to go to an extra gear because there's nobody back there but Watts, the safety, and he can't get over and cover.
Lozovic now with the extra point. Michigan leading 13-3. And the offense starting to show signs of finding its speed. Make that 14-3. The Wolverines, the only undefeated team in the Big Ten, looking to stay that way. Back in Bloomington, Mark Jones along with Tim Brent, 14-3 lead for the Michigan Wolverines after that touchdown by Tyrone Wheatley on that screen pass.
After a quick emotional start, Indiana now is being beaten physically. But watch this. Here's Thurman. We told you at the beginning of the game, he's the middle linebacker, keying on Wheatley. Now watch what happens to him. Here comes 51 Everett. Bang. Nice roll block here. Thurman can't keep his feet. He goes down, and that opens the gates now for Wheatley to go in and score from 26 yards out.
Everett throwing his body around. Broken John all. Here's Middleton on the return, and he's out to the 28-yard line. Time for this Hoosier offense to find its gear, the same gear they had in the opening drive of the game.
Well, we told you at the beginning of the game that the key is Trent Green. He has to be sensational for them to win. In that first series, he had 3 passes. They went down, they scored. They got a field goal. He has now missed his last 7. Consequently, they haven't even been able to move.
Monday night from the Steel City, it's a big AFC Central matchup. The Bengals against the Steelers, featuring 2 of the league's youngest coaches, Cowher and Shula. Michael Batts now in the ball game, the freshman, who had a good week of practice for Indiana. He's the single back, and he gets the carry. And he is met by Steve Morrison.
Now, this is what we were expecting. This was the surprise that they wanted to do. 34 total yards for Indiana, -3 rushing. So they weren't getting it done, and they bring in their freshman. Now, this is a kid, Batts, that they think has good speed, probably more power than Pride. He played in a high school run and shoot offense, state all-star game. That's where they saw him, and they think he's going to be an outstanding running back, much in the same vein as Vaughn Dunbar, or maybe Anthony Thompson. At least that's what they're hoping.
When you say more power than Pride, he does have pride. You mean Emmett Pride, of course.
Thank you for that clarification, Mark Jones.
Easy for me to say. Green to pass, under pressure, and he'll take it himself. Boy, I'm telling you, Steve Morrison is all over the field. He got there first and was assisted by Ty Long. Morrison shows you why he's the leading tackler on this Michigan squad. Stanford leading 6-0 over a very tough Arizona team. Stanford with a big game coming up on the 31st against Washington in Seattle. So far, Indiana 0 for 3 on 3rd down conversions. They have 5 to go here. Green goes down under pressure, and right now we're going to go back to New York for an update from John Saunders.
Mark, Washington State's Philip Bobo receives his punt. He goes right, left, loses the handle. Michael Williams, thank you very much for the gift. 37 yards in the touchdown to tie the game at 14. Mark.
Boy, if that isn't room service, John, I don't know what is. DeJulio now to punt. Back deep, Derek Alexander. Low line drive kick that bounces at the 40. Here's Alexander. And he's run out of bounds at the 35-yard line. 40-yard punt, 3 on the return. 14-3, Wolverines. Flashback time, 1979. This game probably the most exciting in the IU-Michigan series. Watch Lawrence Reed pitch the ball intentionally to Lee Corso to stop the clock. Then the call here from Bob Buford. AC took it in for the touchdown. Here's the other number 1, Derek Alexander. And there's a flag back at the 26-yard line. The tackle made by Damon Watts. What an exciting finish to that game, though, in '79. Michigan winning on the last play there.
Throws downfield to Carter.
Look at Jingle Joints. AC Anthony Carter. I bet you that guy couldn't talk for a week.
Bob
10-yard
Ufer.
penalty to spot the foul. Repeat first down.
Had a seat in the front row.
Oh, boy.
That's Ufer, though, not Euchre.
Now look at the rushing yardage, or lack thereof, for Indiana. -4. Last time we looked, it was -3. Headed towards Terre Haute.
This will make it 1st and 30.
Bill Mallory took his team to the Copper Bowl last year, got the victory in that game. Big Ten Coach of the Year in '86 and '87. First down, 30 to go. Wheatley gets back about 9.
Number 6 carrying, Tyrone Wheatley.
Tyrone Wheatley from Inkster, Michigan.
A 198-yard average after 2 conference games. How about that?
Next Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central, ABC Sports presents regional college football action. Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State, West Virginia, Baylor, Texas A&M, a Pac-10 game plus an ACC game. It's live next Saturday at 3:30. Check the local listings. And if you want to cough up $9.50, the pay-per-view's a great deal too. Play action by Gerbach. Downfield and incomplete. He had Alexander open over the middle, but instead he tried to hit Toomer.
That's his first incompletion of the day. It was a 2-deep zone. They were playing 5 under. They just rotated toward the football. Now watch this. It's zone coverage. Alexander tries to find the open area in here. Also working with Toomer. Now there goes Alexander. Breaks wide open. And all of a sudden, the deep Watts safety comes up. And he's covered, so he just throws it deep.
Alexander now lining up to the left of Gerbach. Screen pass to the tight end McGee. And he'll be far short of the first down, stacked up at the 24-yard line. The charge was led by Al Thurman, the middle linebacker.
Oh, and it's a big-time play by Thurman, too. He came out of his middle linebacker spot, read screen from the get-go, got over there, avoided 2 blocks, and made a pretty good hit.
Nice defensive stand here for Indiana.
Watch 48. All right, now he reads screen. He sees it set up. He watches the lineman. He's keying. Now look, fights through 2 blocks, comes, delivers the blow on a guy that's much bigger than he is, and knocks him down. That was McGee.
Stapleton standing on his own 10-yard line for Michigan. And McGowan is back on his own 38 for Indiana. They come after him, but he gets it off. This one's returnable. McGowan tries to turn the corner, almost squared his shoulders, and he's pushed out of bounds at the 48-yard line. Good field position after that 12-yard return.
Here's a look at Michael Batts, the running back for Indiana. He came in that last series. He is a true freshman. Good speed, more power than most of the backs. Now, 5 months ago, this kid was in high school. He didn't know if a football was stuffed or pumped. Comes in now. He's the first sellout of the year for Indiana. He's in now, and he is now their running back.
And he knows that it's stuffed, right?
Now they come back this time with pride. Emmett Pride.
The reverse end around to Lewis, and he's got the corner. Thomas Lewis, the first down to the 33-yard line. A big pickup, 20 yards for the Hoosiers. Alfie Birch and Corwin Brown finally made the tackle downfield.
Now, we told you they'd be moving Lewis around today. They put him in the backfield. They put him outside. Here comes the reverse. Everybody comes with pride. Now, look, here comes Lewis. Now, I want you to watch 61 McKinnon. See at the right of your screen there, if he gets a block, and Lewis has to wait for him, he could have gotten at least 20 more yards out of this because there's only one cornerback out there. It's Alfie Birch, who's only 190 pounds.
Scott McGowan downfield blocking too nicely. The handoff is to Pride. Leaped over Lewis, his own man at the line of scrimmage, crosses the 30 down to the 29. He was tackled by Dyson.
Yeah, it was a nice tackle by Dyson, too. Dyson 2 years ago was rated the best high school defensive end in the nation.
And Indiana's first possession of the ball game, they marched it 45 yards for the field goal. Since then, though, they've gone backwards.
Well, that was before the reverse.
Line up with 2 tight ends. And they hand it off to Pride. He fumbles it.
This ball
And
can be
Michigan has
advanced.
it. That's Corwin Brown. And Brown is tackled by the tight end, Ross Hales. And the look on her face says it all. Steve Morrison made the strip, and Corwin Brown got the fumble recovery.
Got excited there. I'll tell you, it's the first time we've seen a fumble. And this year, of course, they can be returned. We haven't had one this year. Watch this, though. He gets stripped. The ball is raked. Now watch 46 Walker skates down the line, and here comes Morrison, and Morrison hits his arm, rakes it out of there. Then here comes Brown. Brown picks it up. Boy, that's an outstanding play by Lewis just to grab him, slow him down enough for the pursuit to catch up to him. But look at 36 Morrison. Now watch him rake that ball out of there. See his right hand comes down, slaps it, then he pulls the arm back, knocks it loose.
Here's the handoff to Tyrone Wheatley. He could score. He's gone. Tyrone Wheatley is in the house. Another Michigan touchdown. Striking from 54 yards out. Boy, it didn't take long for Michigan to turn that turnover into quick 6.
Well, if you're keeping count, that's now 12 touchdowns this year of 25 yards or longer. But again, he gets the lead block up there by Jenkins, follows him through. I don't know what the heck happens to Dyer, 16. He just falls down, takes the fake. And then Wheatley just turns it loose. Look at this.
This guy needs to buy an AT&T card. He's going long distance every time we turn around. Lozovic with the extra point. That drive lasted all of 9 seconds. The time it took him to sprint downfield. And Michigan with a commanding 21-3 lead. We have 7:10 still remaining in the first half.
Tyrone Wheatley, a sophomore, had 224 yards in his first start against Iowa. He's been on a rampage ever since. He now has 100 yards in this game, plus the long touchdown you just saw. Now watch this, and I want to show you how Jenkins, 77, leads this thing through. Here's the guy right here. Now watch what he does first of all, and then of course the running back is Wheatley. All right, here comes 77 Jenkins, gets in the hole. All right, stop it right there. Now look, this is your free safety. He hadn't even gotten there. He's already overrun the play, and then he falls down. All right, let it run again. Now you're going to see the pursuit coming. Wheatley sees that. He turns this thing on because he knows he can outrun Smith. And look at this. He's got him. He's gone.
Sprinter speed, Tim, from a guy 225 pounds. Wheatley rushing for 100 yards already, and we have over 7 minutes to go in the first half. There's Wilson on the return. And Wilson is out to the 27-yard line. Busy Saturday afternoon here in college football. Miami just getting underway against TCU. And another third Saturday in October down in Knoxville.
I think Tennessee is still reeling from the upset loss to Arkansas.
16-yard kickoff return by Carl Harrell.
In this game here, Michigan 201 total yards, and Indiana has only 64.
Time for Trent Green and his coaching staff to press the right button here before it gets too late. Handoff this time to Batts. The freshman is over the 30, out to the 31-yard line. Tackled by Brown and Marcus Walker. Michael Batts had a good week of practice, so the coaches figured they'd give him a shot at tailback.
Yeah, but he's got butterflies in his stomach right now, and if you've been watching him like we have, he's really getting pounded up there. He's getting pushed around. He's getting hit hard. This is an indoctrination of sorts for him. It's the first time he's played.
And speaking of hard hits, Alfie Birch, the injured Michigan player, down on the field. Birch, one of the better cover guys in that Michigan secondary. A secondary that this year is much better, Tim, in terms of speed. We talked about that earlier. Birch, Brown, Shante Peoples, Coleman Wallace, all guys that can cover and run.
You know, Alfie Birch did not even play football until his 3rd year in high school. He is the fastest player on this team. His name comes from the Dionne Warwick song. Mom and Dad both ran track. He's got those track legs. You look at him, he's got the very skinny calves, you know. He looks like a sprinter. Former track guy.
A hard-hitting game.
See if you can see right here. This is Alfie Birch. We'll see what happens on the play. See number 4 right there. Wondering if he didn't pull a muscle or something.
Looks like he started to tie up just a little bit before the contact.
All right, there's 7. Now see Alfie Birch?
Number 7 for Michigan.
He just got piled under.
Well, he's up now and walking off the field under his own power.
See, now look at those calves. He's going to get on me for dogging him, but those babies are bird legs.
That's why his socks are so low. Nothing to hold him up, right?
He is fast, though, I'll tell you that. Quality guy, too. Great guy. Parents were very talented track people.
Michigan coming into this game with 4 wins, no losses, and a tie, number 3 in the national polls. A win today would give them a leg up on the Big Ten Conference Championship. 2nd down and 5 to go for Indiana. Ball on the 30. Here's Batts again. All kinds of flags down the field.
Looks like Buster Stanley again jumped. I don't know if he was drawn across, but he definitely did come off sides.
Dwayne Ware made the tackle. Here's the call.
Yeah, it's going to be Buster Stanley again of Michigan.
Well, tomorrow night on ABC, we begin with Life Goes On. Then country music superstar Billy Ray Cyrus guests on America's Funniest Home Videos.
Achy Breaky Heart, Billy Ray.
Love that song, don't you? Followed by America's Funniest People. And Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan star in the Sunday night movie When Harry Met Sally. All tomorrow on ABC.
One of the great restaurant scenes of all time is Harry Met Sally.
Yep. 1st down and 10. Clock winding down. 6:22 to go in the 1st half. Hales and Dan Thompson, 2 tight ends in now for Indiana. The pass is complete in traffic to Hales out at the 42-yard line, which is where his forward progress took him to. He was pushed back by Dwayne Ware and Marcus Walker.
That's a heck of a catch, too. You said in traffic, and it was that, but Green rifled that ball. Good hands by Hales.
Hales 3 receptions, Tim, for 24 yards.
5 yards.
They say he's better than Rod Coleman, who was last year's All Big Ten tight end, 2nd team actually for Indiana.
Still working on Alfie. Hope he's all right there. I mean, we were giving him a hard time, just kidding, but he's a quality player.
Big part of that Michigan secondary. Little counter here to Batts. And he hand walked for about 4 yards and got out to the 48-yard line. Shante Peoples came up from a strong safety spot to make the stop. You know, Arizona's a lot tougher than I think most people give them credit for.
Now, if you're Bill Mallory, you've got to be telling your team not to panic. You've got to make him believe. You've got to tell them that there's still plenty of time left in this ball game. 21-3 against the number 3 ranked team in the country. That's very difficult to overcome. They've got to do it little by little.
They haven't converted yet on 3rd down. And this one will be extremely close. There's a fumble. Have to see who got it back. Morrison was in the neighborhood and may have knocked it loose.
Well, Dwayne
And
Ware was
Michigan
there,
got it
Peoples
back.
was there. They came in. He was going after the first, came up short. But I want you to watch 36 Morrison. He's playing this middle linebacker spot, and he's playing it with bad intentions. Reads, one false step, fights his way through the crowd. Now watch this. Again, he's reaching in. The ball's loose, and Michigan gets it back. How about that? He's caused 2 fumbles in the last 2 minutes.
Shante Peoples jumped on him. An opportunistic Michigan team this afternoon.
See Walker, 46. He'll come up, tries to take off the block there in the middle. Now 36 comes in. As soon as he puts that shoulder in, does it right on the football. And the football wasn't tucked and protected.
Last time Michigan received the turnover from Indiana, they scored on the first play. Let's see what happens here. Number 17, Jason Orton, batted it down and may have caught it for the interception. Couldn't find the handle, though.
Jason Orton's an interesting story, too. We mentioned earlier he's a walk-on, but he's worked hard. He's worked his way into the lineup. He now becomes the starting left corner.
Michigan, Tim, going no huddle once again. Single back set. Alexander split to the bottom of your screen. The draw to Johnson. And Johnson is down to the 28-yard line of Indiana. Finally pushed out of bounds by Damon Watts. A 19-yard gain, and the Wolverines are on the move.
You know, look at this. This will beat you down mentally and physically. You know, Bill Mallory made the statement that if his club was not wired for this game, they should have their wiring checked. Well, I think they really did come out and they were emotionally high, but when you're going against a team as talented, as big, and as deep as Michigan, they just wear you down.
That's what they're doing now. Handoff again to Jesse Johnson. And he's down to the 22-yard pickup. Tim, they're getting about 5 yards plus per pop.
Tackle made by McCormick, but I tell you, the McSack pack really had much of a chance today. McDaniel was hurt. McCormick has been struggling. Gerbeck's had pretty much his own way.
Moeller still very much into this ball game, though. Coming up at halftime on the Prudential Halftime Report, John Saunders will have scores and highlights from all of today's action. Marian Grabavoy will have a nice story, a nice report on a Russian football team's visit this week to Western Kentucky University. Stick around for that. Alexander in the slot. The handoff is to Jesse Johnson, and Johnson is down to the 11-yard line. Man, Tim, you've got Powers, who didn't make the trip. Johnson, Wheatley, Davis. Where does it end?
All right, give a lot of credit to the running backs, but I'm telling you, this game right now is being dominated by the big linemen. That's been the difference. You've got Jenkins, Skeen, Everett, Kokoso, and Doherty. There's Jesse Johnson. Those last two runs put him over 1,000 yards. But it's that big offensive line that deserves the credit here, because it's a mismatch up front. We told you how the weights vary, but not only that, but they're stronger and quicker.
Two tight ends, single back set. It's Johnson in the backfield behind Gerbeck. The fade pattern again. He's got a man open. And it's incomplete. Ruled out of bounds. He hit Amani Toomer, but he couldn't keep those feet in.
Toomer thought he had it. He was the consensus top wideout in the country last year as a high school senior. Turned down Notre Dame, UCLA, Washington. See if his feet aren't in. He drifts behind the secondary, and watch this. He's got Orton beaten. He's made to catch, but his left foot is on the line. Good call by the back judge.
Tim, that's the same pattern they scored on at the other end with Derek Alexander.
Not exactly the same, but it is a timing pattern.
Back 7 of 10, 88 yards. Foster and Wheatley. This is Wheatley, who moves it down to the 3. Now they can get a first down without scoring a touchdown.
You know, Mark, I don't like to be facetious, but this is like going bear hunting with a stick right now for Indiana. I mean, they're just outmatched and overpowered.
Well, with about 3 minutes to go in the first half, Coach Bill Mallory will have to get into the locker room and reassess, which might be the biggest understatement of the afternoon. You know, Wheatley last week had 224. Said he wanted 300. Ambitious or greedy? They look into the end zone again, wide open, a flag down, touchdown Jesse Johnson, but we'll have to see what this flag is about.
Looked like Thurman, Al Thurman, the middle linebacker, got cut off, had a misread, never did get up there. Boy, that's a break for Indiana.
It sure is. Gary Moeller, 29, 29, and 4, reaching that 500 mark.
Illegal participation on the offense.
Stop it right there. Right there.
Penalty.
See this right here? That's Thurman. He's supposed to have him. Look at the difference. It's not even close. He's all by himself. It's a broken coverage. Touchdown. Indiana gets a break, though, because of the penalty. The flag's thrown, so they bring it back.
Moeller giving instructions to his offense. They'll face 3rd down and 18 when they snap the ball. And the call was illegal participation by the offense. 3rd and 19. Back to pass. And he hits Walter Smith at the 17-yard line, tackled immediately by Steve Perkins. Perkins, the nickelback who came in that time, 6'4", 210-pound junior. So in comes the field goal unit. Peter Ilozovic. 2 of 5 on the year. They haven't really kicked a lot of field goals.
No, and they haven't been that effective. As a matter of fact, Ilozovic was 2 for 3 inside the 30, but 0 for 2 beyond the 30.
And this one, Tim, comes from 33 yards out. And he's got it. Wolverines tack on 3 more and now lead 24-3 with 1:53 remaining. Ilozovic now 3 of 6 on the year. 1:53 remaining in Bloomington. Michigan leads Indiana 24-3 on a beautiful fall afternoon for a football game. We are in the shadows of Assembly Hall, site of many great basketball games. Michigan getting set to kick it off.
There's Assembly Hall in the background. Won't be too long before things will be heating up in there. Saw Bobby Knight downstairs getting a little barbecue, hiding himself away in a corner.
They're good friends with head coach Bill Mallory here.
You know, Michigan doesn't lose very much in October. Gary Moeller lost his first 2 games when he started, has not lost since, 7 in a row.
And the kickoff will bounce into the end zone. Indiana will start on its own 20-yard line.
You know, talking about Michigan's success in October, Mark, Michigan is 85-8-1 in the month of October.
When the leaves fall and change colors, Michigan comes to the top.
Well, last year Michigan lost only to Florida State. That was early in the season. Then Washington in the Rose Bowl. They finished 6th last season behind Miami and Washington, Penn State, Florida State, and Alabama.
Trent Green still at quarterback. As we look at what they've done in the last 2 drives, had a couple of fumbles, which Michigan immediately catched.
Well, you said that like you were almost surprised that Green was still the quarterback.
Well, it is 24-3.
Oh, but he's the best they have. You've got to go with him. He's a great talent.
It's in motion. Over the middle to the tight end, Ross Hales, who's tackled at the 30-yard line and probably close to the first down. He'll have it. The tackle made by Steve Morrison.
See, Indiana now has got to be thinking with 1:46 left in the half, they've got to somehow get a touchdown. They do. They're back in this thing.
Here's Green back to pass. Lots of time and fires incomplete and a late flag. It'll look like pass interference.
It is.
Hit Beatty.
It's going to be on Morrison. It's going to be on Steve Morrison. He got a little contact where the ball was in the air.
And that's what the call is. We can't count Indiana out after what we saw last week between Virginia and Clemson. It was 28-0 at one point.
No, but watch this. Green did have time, but now he feels it coming down and breaking down behind him. He knows he's going to get hit. Throws over the middle. Now here comes the contact. Actually, you don't see it right there, but
it was a late call, though. It's Michigan's 6th penalty of the afternoon. Total is 69 yards. Have 1:40 remaining in the first half. The ball into 39. Beatty in the slot. Single back set for Indiana. Green deep drop over the middle, incomplete for Lewis, and he was covered tightly by Coleman Wallace.
Boy, Green really throws a hard pass. You know that? Here comes Thomas Lewis again, working on the corner. Wallace, number 5. Good move. Now watch him get his separation. His philosophy is, if I'm even, I'm leaving. If I can get next to you, I can beat you. And he did. Pass was just a little bit out of his reach, a little bit too hard.
Tim, they've moved him around a little bit, but so far limited or no success. Here he comes in motion. Green looks the other way and has a man open. That's Beatty, but he threw a nice bounce pass with a 48. Incomplete. Dwayne Ware providing the coverage for Michigan that time.
Well, you know, this defense for Michigan has improved dramatically over the years. More depth, more experience, and definitely more speed. This could be the best defense Gary Moeller has ever had. It certainly is the quickest.
You know, we saw their lack of speed last year against Florida State in Ann Arbor. They were thoroughly outclassed in the speed department.
And against Washington, the same thing. Washington had great speed, and that was the difference in the Rose Bowl.
Look at Indiana, 0 for 5 on the afternoon on third down conversions. Green running into his own lineman. And he goes down to the 25-yard line. A huge loss that time. The third sack of the afternoon for the Michigan defense. That time it was Hutchinson. And now they take a timeout to stop the clock.
You know, Thomas Lewis was wide open that time. I mean, wide open. Somebody had a breakdown in coverage. There was nobody with him, and Green couldn't find him. Lewis coming off now is really frustrated.
Moeller trying to juice up his man Alexander, and we're going to take a quick break and come right back. 24-3. It's all Michigan. Boy, Tim, looking at that Monday night game coming up, that AFC Central Division battle, you talk about big tight ends and power football. Eric Green. I'm afraid to invite that guy over for supper. I mean, he'd eat you out of house and home.
A couple of former Maryland quarterbacks, too, facing off against each other. If, in fact, Boomer Esiason plays. Now, I don't think he will because of the injury, but he says he wants to. He says he wants to give it a try.
Alexander is standing on his own 35-yard line. DeJulio punts it, and it's a nice high punt. Alexander will return it, and he's tackled immediately back at the 37. Nice tackle that time on the 37-yard punt. -2 on the return. Arnold Mickens said hello to Alexander.
Another flag down, though.
Clock shows 1:05 remaining in the first half.
Ronald Winter, our referee, will tell us that Indiana broke a rule.
Well, Indiana started off well. They marched it downfield and cashed in with a 38-yard field goal by Bunnell. And after that, it's been all Michigan. Derek Alexander on the fade pattern. Make it 7-3. Then Tyrone Wheatley, a 26-yard touchdown reception. And then Wheatley immediately after the turnover by Indiana. Hit it 21-3 then. Milosevic, 33-yard field goal, and that's where we stand right now, 24-3.
What a game by Tyrone Wheatley. 14 carries, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's been that kind of year for him.
I said, Tim, that he had 224 yards last week, and they asked him, how'd you feel about the game after playing Michigan State? Hey, he says, I would have liked to get 300. We'd like now to pause 5 seconds to allow our ABC stations to identify themselves.
Detroit.
Mark Jones, Tim Brandt here in Bloomington, Indiana. On a beautiful fall day. Michigan leads 24-3. We have 1:05 remaining in the first half of play, and that man right there has been like dynamite.
Well, he has. You know, in high school, when Tyrone Wheatley was running for 2,000 yards and winning 3 events at the state track and field championships, they called him Superman. Now you can get a pretty good indication why.
DeJulio punting it again. And this one's a low-line drive punt. Alexander had an 80-yard return last week. Put it on rerun. Derek Alexander is going to score. Last week it was 80. This time it's 70. Touchdown, Michigan.
Here's a guy that played well in 1990. He had 31 receptions and suffered a season-ending knee injury. They didn't know if he'd come back, but I'll tell you this, he has dimmed the pain of the loss of Desmond Howard, who moved on early to the pros.
It's Desmond who after that run?
Well, last year Desmond had 3 touchdowns against Indiana. Alexander has that big one here.
Yeah, Alexander's saying, hey, what's the record in this house, huh? What's the record in this joint?
4.4 speed. And I mean to tell you, he turned it on this time. Now watch this, and you can see what he's seeing. Now all the blockers are coming from the left of your screen, so that's the first thing he does. Gets by 2 guys, and now all of a sudden he comes back and tries to pick up some blockers. Now it's all coming from the right. So let's go back against that grain. He makes his cut. Now watch this. Bang, gets a block out here. And now it's all speed. And he's got that 4.4 speed we talked about, and there's nobody going to catch him. Think he's not excited?
When you wear number 1 at Michigan, that is a special honor indeed.
You know, he had 7 touchdowns in 1 game in high school. Interesting guy, too, looking at his priorities, looking ahead past school. His summer job was as a counselor with the Detroit Police Cadets.
Yeah, and you know, Gary Moeller said that Alexander played maybe his best game of the year last week. Said he blocked well, too, against Michigan State.
He does do that. I tell you what, they're starting to call him Alexander the Great because he does so many things. He does block. He will sacrifice his body. And then when he gets his opportunity offensively or in punt returns, he just turns it loose. Look at this. It's like the library in here.
Oh, boy. It is a sea of red and white, but blue faces.
Indiana guy just walked by us here on his way downstairs. Says, hey, at halftime, can we choose up new sides?
Lozovic, whose leg is probably getting a little tired by now, to kick off again. 45 seconds remaining in the half. This is Harris. You'd think that right now Trent Green would just kneel down and they want to get into the locker room and reassess.
With 1:46 left in the first half, Indiana had the football. Green was moving the offense, and we said if they score, which they were obviously trying to do, it would have made it 24-10 at halftime. It would have still been a ball game. But instead, they lose the ball back to Michigan. Michigan uses timeouts very, very effectively, then had that punt return, and now instead it's 31-3.
Michigan has had the tendency to let up some in the second half so far this year.
You know, that was the first punt return for a touchdown against Indiana since 1982.
The handoff. This is Pride who's back in the backfield, and he takes it out over the 40 to the 41-yard line. And he will not stop the clock. Coleman Wallace pushed him out. First down and 10. Green to the wide side of the field for Lewis. Lewis couldn't get out of bounds, and he's tackled right at midfield. Ty Law providing the coverage for Michigan.
Yesterday, offensive coordinator George Ballou was telling us that Indiana had to throw at least 40% of the time to win games. Now they'll have to throw even more than that, obviously, to get back into this one.
And time for the Michigan defense to pin their ears back and come. Coming up on the Prudential Halftime Report, John Saunders will have scores and highlights from all of today's action, and Marianne Grabovoy will report on a Russian football team's visit this week to Western Kentucky University. Glasnost and football, huh? Indiana with a couple of timeouts remaining. They have 11 seconds to work with. Not a lot, but enough time to throw it up into the end zone.
Alexander the Great.
Motor City Hitman out of Detroit, Michigan.
I think it's interesting. Michigan said coming into the game that it had to stop the running game, and it has done that effectively. Then it said it had to get to Green, which is tough to do, but they've done that as well. They only got 37 yards rushing all day. And Green's hit only 39% of his passes, so they've hit both of their objectives for the Wolverines.
Ball is at midfield. And Green is in trouble.
And look who it is. It's Hutch.
Fourth sack of the afternoon for the Michigan defense. And that is the last play of the first half. Michigan in command, 31-3. Looking to remain unbeaten in Big Ten Conference play. It's halftime. Mark Jones along with Tim Brent. We're about to get the start of the third quarter underway. Michigan leads it 31-3, and Michigan will kick it off to Indiana to start the quarter.
They not only lead, Mark, but they've dominated, and I mean dominated every aspect of the game. This is the most powerful Michigan team I've seen. They're not only big and strong, but extremely quick. Fastest team Gary Moeller has ever had.
And here's the kick that lands very short and shallow at the 13-yard line to Eric Matthews. And Matthews is tripped up right at the 14-yard line. Let's take a look at the first half statistics, and well, it was all Michigan.
And it'll show you that domination. We've highlighted two things that I think are very important. Number one, the 2 turnovers by Indiana, and you see that they turn those into points, 10 points. But other than that, 156 rushing yards to only 28 for Indiana, and total yards, of course, has been all Michigan.
6 of those 10 points came on that Tyrone Wheatley bolt into the end zone. Trent Green, a quarterback, starting from his own 14-yard line. Brett Law now is the tailback, and he takes the handoff, makes it out to the 17-yard line. That's Brett Law's first carry of the afternoon. He was banged up last week. He was their leading rusher against Missouri, had 240 yards, but then hurt a shoulder.
Indiana offensive leaders have not been that productive. Obviously, Green, he is the talent on this offense. He can play with anybody. He's 6 for 12, 61 yards, but Michigan's defense has been led by Morrison, the linebacker, and I mean, he's been all over the place. He caused 2 fumbles.
Gain of 2 on first down, 2nd down and 8. Beatty in motion to the top of your screen. Green back to pass, gets it off to the tight end, Hales. And Hales is tackled at the 22-yard line, a couple of yards short of the first down. Dwayne Ware and Marcus Walker, the linebacker, made the tackle.
Coming into this game, Bill Mallory was talking about you have to believe. Now I think at halftime he's talking about showing some courage, showing some pride, coming back and trying to do something here. This guy Green is as tough as they come. I want you to watch the lick he takes, bang, and gets drilled with his feet under him, but still completes the pass. Although he came up a yard shy, he got it to Hales. Talented guy, Trent Green.
Tough guy, good knowledge of the game.
It's like another coach on the field. He's sold on the coaches and their philosophy.
Beatty in motion, that's who they go to, and he can't hang on to it. Would have had the first down, and it may have been thrown just a touch behind him. He turned around and couldn't find the ball.
Green's got to start talking to these guys. He's got to be talking to Beatty and saying, you've got to make that catch. He's calling him over, too, and he's going to talk to him. That ball went right through his hands. You see this game right here? Iowa State led 47-21 at one time, and Kansas comes back and wins it 50-47.
Glenn Mason doing an outstanding job at Kansas this year.
They're 5-1.
Rutledge now punts it away, and this is Mercury Hayes, who can't find the handle. Back to the 25 now, and he's tackled at the 30. Remember, the last punt by Indiana was returned 70 yards by Derek Alexander for a touchdown.
Watch this. You'll see he tries to take it a little bit too high. Takes it up around the face. He should have backed up a little bit more like an outfielder and then come back to it, catching around the chest, or use his hands a little bit lower.
Well, let's see what Michigan does in the second half here. They have led up at times in the second half this season. Gerback still at quarterback. Little out pattern at the 35, out of bounds at the 36, complete to Tony McGee, the tight end. Jay Davis pushed him out of bounds.
You know, if you're Indiana now, you've got to start looking at everything. Not only do you have to lift your level of play to get back in this thing, but also you've got to think, all right, here's the team, the second most penalized team in the Big Ten. They've already had 7 in this half. They also have a league-high 14 turnovers. So hopefully we can get them to get a little bit out of sync and maybe cause some turnovers.
Here's Tyrone Wheatley, ever dangerous, this time bottled up and tackled at the 37-yard line. Bernard Whittington, 6'6", 235-pound junior, making the tackle.
Bernard Whittington said Thursday, just play base defense. Let's go straight up with Michigan. That's our game plan, and we can do it. Obviously, they were overpowered in the first half.
And there's a look at Todd Collins, the Elvis impersonator, and a very talented quarterback from Walpole, Massachusetts.
You know, he's a terrific passer, Mark. Experts feel that he'll be better than Gerback. He ripped Houston.
Played 2 games, started 2 games while Gerback was out with that ankle injury. Hayes in motion, but they come back the other way. Gerback has it batted down and then throws it again. Hey, little schoolyard, right? Why not? Flags down on the play, and Lamar Mills was the one that batted it down.
Can't have two forward passes on the same play. Gerback threw it and got a completion. So now not only does he have his completion numbers, but now he's got a reception too.
Got to get those stats.
Watch this. All right, there's the pass. Here comes his first reception of the game. Another completion. That's the way to do it. Then he throws it out of bounds. The flags fly. They've got a punt.
1 for 2 on the same play, huh?
See, Elvis says this game's in hand. It's 31-3. Let me build my stats a little bit.
Elvis. Thank you very much. Stapleton in to punt it, standing on his own 8-yard line. And Scott McGowan is back on his 35 for Indiana.
Indiana looks like it has the punt block on. We'll see. Everybody up, just one back.
They blocked 2 this year. Stapleton gets off a nice punt. He's done a fine job this afternoon. This one is high all the way back to the 26. And McGowan is brought back at the 31-yard line. A 51-yard boom by Stapleton. 5 yards on the return. The Hoosiers 1st and 10 from their own 31-yard line. Single back set. Play action by Green. Under heavy fire and down right around the line of scrimmage. Michigan dominating this afternoon, but they have been penalized just a little bit.
Well, we talked about that a few minutes ago. If they do have a downfall, if they do have a weakness, it is that they are the second highest rated penalty team in the Big Ten. Look at this. Second most in the Big Ten. Not only that, but also their turnover rate. They lead the league there. They've got a league high 14 turnovers in 5 games coming into this one.
A loss of 2 on that last play. Michigan trying to get a player off the field. Lewis in motion. Green. Ouch, that one hurts. Back at the 15-yard line. Now long distance back to New York and John Saunders. John?
Mark, number 8, Stanford is in deep trouble. Billy Johnson here, the first time they get their hands on the ball in the second half. 33 yards on the touchdown. They lead 21-6. Mark.
All right, John, an Arizona ambush in Palo Alto, California. Taking some of the steam out of Bill Walsh's crew, who in 2 weeks go up to Seattle to take on Washington. Handoff in 3rd and 25. They get a few back. That was Batts, the freshman.
3rd and 25 and a run with Batts. I think what they're trying to do is do the unexpected, but now I think it's beyond that. They've just got to throw.
Well, it's been a tough year in the Big Ten. Their interconference record has been kind of weak. We asked the coach about the Big Ten and it being down, and here's what he had to say about it.
I still feel the league's good. I still feel it's quality. And yet, too, you have to say that Michigan probably sits up there a notch above the rest of us. Time will tell. But I like to think you're going to see some other teams come on and be pretty good teams by the end of the season.
Well, I think he makes a good point when he talks about the Big Ten. Number one, they've got the worst record against non-conference opponents among the 8 major leagues. Only Michigan's in the top 25 this week, and they haven't had a national championship since 1968 in this conference. This is amazing. They aren't even looking at the field anymore. Look at these people. These are the ones that are, at least they stayed. This was the first sellout crowd they've had here all year, and you can see how many people have left.
A lot of the people went to the bathroom, didn't come back.
Either that or disguised as empty seats.
Gerback still in the building, and he's down at the 34-yard line. You know, I believe that's the first sack of the afternoon for the Indiana defense. They had 9 last week.
A lot of folks have stayed, though. You know, we joked about it, but Bill Mallory was talking on his radio show. He would like to see the students here take more of an interest in the football team because he says his team needs their support.
Rather than some of the overzealous tailgating sometimes.
Well, that's right. And I think some of them, most of them, a lot of them have left to get an early start.
2nd down and 12. Past the mustard. Tyrone Wheatley out to the 41-yard line. Tyrone Wheatley certainly a candidate for our Chevrolet Most Valuable Player of the Game award. At the conclusion of today's game, we'll be selecting a Chevy MVP of the Game award from each team. And for the 22nd year through the Chevy Scholarship Program, $1,000 will be donated to the General Scholarship Fund of each school.
Well, if you've missed him in the first half, Wheatley has 116 yards, Mark, so you're exactly right. And I mean to tell you, if you missed him in the first half, shame on you. 2 touchdowns, sensational.
Under pressure, Gerback goes down for the second time this afternoon. Lamar Mills was the first one on the scene. A loss of 12 yards. Michigan was going to have to punt.
Now, we saw last week where Virginia had a 28-0 lead on Clemson and then lost that edge, and that happens when you have a big lead. This is one of the few times that Michigan's had to punt the entire game, and you wonder now, have they lost a little bit of the edge, the intensity they had early on, because it's so lopsided?
Well, it's happened a couple of times this season for Michigan. Stapleton with the punt back to the 31-yard line. McGowan dancing and tiptoeing his way out to the 37, and a flag's down on the field. Well, coming up next Saturday, ABC's college football continues. Ohio State against Michigan State in the Big Ten. Penn State, West Virginia. We will be down in College Station as A&M takes on Baylor. Our ACC game is Georgia Tech against North Carolina, and a Pac-10 game to be announced next Saturday live at 3:30 Eastern Time on ABC.
R.C. Slocum's Texas A&M
Illegal
team.
block in the back, above the waist, on the return team. 10-yard penalty from the end of the run.
Aggies still unbeaten. A schedule conducive to keep them that way.
Greg Hill, an outstanding running back, and Granger now starting to find his timing a little bit. The quarterback for A&M.
No, man, let's go, let's go.
8:05 remaining in the third quarter. Trips left formation for Indiana. Green ends up being planted at the 12-yard line by Hutchinson.
Chris Hutchinson came into this game. He's a great football player, academic All-American as well. He's the captain of the team, kinesiology major. He wants to go to medical school. He had 7 tackles last week, including 2 sacks. He started 31 straight games. And whether he's down or up, tackle or end, he's tough. Look at him here. He goes down here. He's got 3 sacks. Play a little game. He comes in behind. That's a mismatch. There isn't a back that's going to step up into a hole and take Hutchinson, who's 6'2", 251, and has that agility, and stop him.
He's turning Green into the human rototiller. Here's Law now. And Brett Law busts a nice run out to the 33-yard line, a pickup of 18.
See, he's walking gingerly, too. Brett Law was not expected to play today. He has a shoulder injury, hurt it in the game last week. He is the leading rusher, came into this game with 343 yards, 240 yards against Missouri, but they needed him today, so here he is in the second half.
The injured player, Tim, on the field is Pat Maloney. 6'2", 194-pound senior. He's the strong safety that plays behind Shante Peoples.
Here it is again. This is the tail end of it. Here's Law's run, and then here comes the hit by Maloney, 43. Puts his right shoulder into him. Now watch how his body twists as the force of Law and his own man, Ware, come down on him. I'll tell you this about Maloney. He and Peoples, they share time at the strong safety spot, so Gary Moeller can keep his guys fresh.
Got a talented cast back there. Right now, let's go back to New York and John Saunders with this update.
Mark, TCU in Miami, and Gino Torretta hooks up with Horace Copeland, who just outruns his man to the end zone. Miami leading 24-3 at halftime. Mark.
Okay, John, Miami keeping an eye on those poll voters. I tell you, it is so close. Wouldn't that be something if both Miami and Washington did what they did last year, repeating?
How about this, the air attack? These guys are coming into the stadium, hot air balloons.
I saw some guns outside, those big boat guns.
Now, don't get people excited. Now, it's Memorial Stadium.
Number 43 for Michigan, ladies and gentlemen, Pat Maloney.
Central Michigan big today. Western Michigan sneaks one in. Tell you this, I am sold on Michigan. Going after their 16th straight road win. 17-0-1 in conference road games.
And it looks like they're about to snap Indiana's 7-game winning streak here at Memorial Stadium. 31-3 with 6:55 remaining. Green steps up and goes down with a 32.
Of course, that time you just mentioned is in the third quarter. It's remaining in the third quarter.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the thing about Michigan, this defense is quick, but it's a smart defense as well. And knowing where to go makes you quick. There are more blitzes, man-to-man coverage. You're doing a whole lot more. It has improved dramatically over last year. And again, we reiterate the fact that it's more speed.
Just saw Gary Moeller. If he should win this game, if they should hang on, he will be over 500 overall for the first time as a head coach. Shannon Rutledge punting it, and Mercury Hayes at the 25. He returns it to the 35 yards after that 42-yard punt. Still 31-3. 6:08 remaining in the third. Flashback time, homecoming 1987. The Hoosiers had not beaten the Wolverines since '67. With 9 minutes left in the third quarter, Dave Schnell scores from 3 yards out, and then the Hoosier D holds Michigan on 4th and 7 with a nice tackle there to secure their second victory in just 25 years. That was the last time that they beat Michigan. A long time between drinks of water since that time. 1st and 10 now for the Wolverines. Nice run out to the 37-yard line by Tyrone Wheatley.
Indiana's defense has done a nice job, though, in the second half, as defenses have all year against this Michigan club. See the time remaining in the third quarter, and to this point, all Michigan.
Wheatley now 17 rushes, 123 yards.
You see what's happened this year. This is what we were just talking about. Look how strong the Wolverines are in the first half, and then in the second half, things drop off significantly. But for the most part, to be brutally honest, they've had big leads in the first half and haven't needed that production.
Yeah, they pulled the chute at halftime. Wheatley now out to the 48-yard line. The tackle made by Damon Watts and Chris Dyer. Pickup of 12 that time, but there's a flag down.
You know, in the offseason, Tyrone Wheatley added 20 pounds, studies and reads, and he didn't lose any speed at all. Reads very, very quickly now. He knows what his keys are, and he picks them up and reacts to them. And being stronger and just as fast.
That all-important vision if you're going to be a good tailback.
Well, not only that, but he's 6'1", 225 pounds, so he's got great size and uses that size. But he also has a low center of gravity, and he's got terrific balance.
Came into the ball game leading this Michigan team in scoring, had 48 points.
Got 10 touchdowns now on the year.
Guy's not even sweating. Come on. That's not fair.
Might have gotten poked in the eye.
Only a sophomore. The ball's at the 32-yard line after the penalty. It's 1st down 25. A little mix-up on the handoff. This is Jesse Johnson powering it out to the 42-yard line.
I don't think it was a mix-up. I think he came out with a reverse pivot and just gave it to Johnson. You know, some things never change. Michigan still runs the ball down your throat, but the Wolverines are using that more speed that we've talked about more than ever before, and I think this is the best running game Michigan's had since I've been following them anyway.
Tim, looking at Wheatley on the sidelines, he said just what you had thought about, that he had gotten a finger in the eye from one of the Indiana players. He's motioning that to the trainer. 2nd down, 16 to go. The back set in the offset eye. Foster in motion. They'll look for the screen pass to Jesse Johnson in a load of traffic, and he's tackled right at the 43-yard line by Steve Perkins.
I'll tell you this, old Al Thurman, the leading tackler on the Indiana defense, he came after him and actually high jumped him, went right over top of him.
1 yard on the pass play. 3rd down, Michigan.
3rd down, 15 to go. Elvis Gerbach took the opening snap, has been the quarterback since. Trips right formation for Michigan. Elvis steps up wide open over the middle. Alexander. And a first down at the 34-yard line of Indiana, tackled by Dyer. A pickup of 23 yards. And on and on and on marches the offense.
Talking to the coaches coming into this game, Mallory was not been happy with his secondary. You see here that he gets one-on-one coverage. It's not even close. I mean, as soon as Richardson, number 10, lets him go in the zone, then he gets into the seam where Dyer's supposed to be the safety, and he's wide open. One thing that Alexander does, as well as anybody I've seen, is separate from defenders. And in the zones, he finds the air, the open spaces.
Really kind of looks like he's gliding, too.
Reverse.
And here it comes. Mercury Hayes cuts it back up inside down to the 29. Hayes, the freshman, tackled at the 29-yard line. Damon Watts making the stop that time.
You know, it's hard to believe. This is the first game this year, first time this year that Michigan has played on artificial turf. They worked on it Wednesday and Thursday and didn't figure it would be much of a problem, and it hasn't been. But, of course, that stadium used to have artificial turf in Michigan, and now this is the first time they played. As you look at the rushing yards, again, total domination.
Backside of the eye this time. Alexander split to the bottom of your screen. Gerback hands it off to Davis. And Davis powers it down to the 20. Right now, back to New York and John Saunders. John?
Number 26, Davis.
Mark, Tennessee trying to march back against Alabama. Heath Schuler here with a little fake and then tosses the bullet to David Horn. 3 yards. There's about 13 minutes left. Mark.
Tennessee trying to rebound still, I think, Tim, from that loss to Arkansas.
You realize Alabama had not given up a touchdown. The defense had not given up a touchdown all year until today.
And, Tim, another upset in the making right there. Arizona over Stanford. And Jesse Johnson takes the handoff. And he moves the ball down to the 16-yard line, tackled by Damon Watts.
Good strong tackle by Watts, too.
That offensive line for Michigan has really done a job. They deserve a lot of the credit for the running backs. Jenkins, Skeen, Everett, Kakuzo, Doherty.
Jenkins 298, Skeen 294, Everett 291, Kakuzo 294, and Doherty 298. That's bigger than most NFL lines.
Red beans and rice, my man. Johnson in motion. Gerback goes to him. The pass is complete. And it'll be marked back at the 17-yard line. He actually caught it at the 14, trying to make a move, and ended up losing a few yards.
Here's Gerback, and of course he's had a hot hand today. He's 12 of 16. See the stripes on their helmets, Mark? That was designed by Fritz Chrysler so that the quarterbacks could see their receivers better. So it's almost like a fluorescent stripe, a wild stripe, the 3 stripes on the helmet, so that the quarterbacks can pick out the receivers.
Looks good, too.
Fritz Chrysler had some design ahead of his time.
3rd down and 6 to go. 1 minute left in the 3rd quarter. Into the end zone. Gerback for Alexander. Touchdown, Michigan. Derek Alexander does it again.
Told you last year Desmond Howard had 3 touchdowns against Indiana.
Tim, there's a flag back at the 22-yard line.
Well, that's right. Alexander trying to do that today, but this is going to go against the Wolverines, and they'll bring him back.
A nice-looking play, nonetheless. Do you think Gary Moeller has let up? I don't think so.
No, but that's why he's such a strong coach, outstanding teacher, and he doesn't want him to lose that edge or let up. Gerback puts this thing right out. Look at Alexander. He takes Watts inside, number 5, then breaks to the outside, and it's, again, what we said, if I'm even, I'm leaving. You take a guy with that speed against Watts, you put him in a foot race when they're even like that, and he'll beat him every time.
10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Repeat 3rd down.
Watch Elvis now. He knows he's got a touchdown, but now he sees the flag. Look at him. Oh, come on, ref. Give us a break.
Hurts the numbers, too.
Yes, he's happy, though. He's got a reception today.
16-yard penalty. Tim, you know, you talk about separation and how well Derek Alexander runs his patterns. You hear the word used so much. What exactly does it mean when you talk about separation?
Well, obviously, the defensive back wants to stay in your hip pocket, and if you can get a yard or anything past him, that is the separation. You use your body, just like in basketball. Like that's not even a contest there because he found open air and didn't have tight coverage. But you want to keep your body between the defender and the ball, and if anything you can separate from that defender is total separation.
Walter Smith on the reception. 4th down, and in comes the field goal unit. This one coming from 38 yards out. He's already made one today. And now Michigan calls a timeout.
That's not going to make Gary happy either. He's saying, why are you taking the timeout?
You know, speaking with Gary Moeller, Tim, a couple of weeks ago against Iowa before the game, and even this week, he really seems to have put his stamp on the Michigan team and the Michigan program. With all due respect to Bo Schembechler, who was an outstanding coach, did a lot for the program, really is Michigan football. Gary Moeller really has control of this program.
Well, you know, he is a good coach. 23-5-1 now in his 3rd year. Good, solid coach. But everybody forgets, like so many other great coaches, Moeller had some rocky times, too. At Illinois, for instance, between 77 and 79, he went 6, 24, and 3. Well, that helps develop you. It gives you some backbone, some spine. I mean, you know what you've done wrong now. Now you try to rebuild and regroup, and he's done that. The people that fight through the bad times and persevere that become successful, and he certainly has done that. Can't help but think back his first game in Michigan. It was against Notre Dame, primetime game. I did it. And the thing was, they had a big lead. They lost that game. But they haven't lost many since.
Not at all. Veloza back from 38. Missed it. And Moeller told us before the game he wasn't happy with their kicking game, and there you see part of the reason why. Another look at this one. He just hooked it.
Good snap, good hold. And you're right, he just missed it. Never did get it up. He has been erratic.
Now 3 of 7 on the year.
Well, coming into this game, he was 2 for 3 inside the 30. But outside the 30, he hadn't hit one until his first one here today.
Tim, when you think of field goal kickers and place kicking, Bobby Bowden's name comes up. Florida State, 2 years in a row. Really almost a part of the game that is sometimes overlooked. First down and 10. They give it to the tailback, who bounces it outside. That's Batts. And he's tackled at the 27. We would now like to pause 5 seconds to allow our ABC stations to identify themselves.
This is WXYZ-TV, Channel 7, Detroit.
5-yard gain by Michael Bass.
Mark Jones, Tim Brandt here in Bloomington, Indiana. The Hoosiers scored the first 3 points of the ball game, and since that time, Michigan has stormed back with 31 unanswered points as we have 9 seconds to go in the period. Batts in motion. Green complete to the tight end. Hales at the 30-yard line, and that'll be the last play of the 3rd quarter for Indiana. Tackle made by Ware. We'll return with more action between Michigan and Indiana after this message and a word from our ABC station. Well, Mark Jones and Tim Brandt back in beautiful Bloomington, Indiana. And it is all Michigan so far, 31-3. A beautiful fall afternoon.
It is, but it has been all Michigan. You're right about that. Indiana just outmatched today.
Trent Green still at quarterback. And the ball's on the ground. Michigan has recovered the fumble. Indiana with its 3rd turnover of the afternoon. And Mallory is saying that Batts was down, that he hit the carpet first. One of the officials already has singled Michigan. But now they're talking about the call.
Well, look at it by yourself. Here's 43 coming into the picture now. The ball's loose right there. See, now they're saying down by contact. That's a bad call because the ball was loose. Should have been a fumble. Maloney recovered. It should be Michigan's ball. But it doesn't matter much, though, with the score 31-3. It's not going to change the complexion of the game.
But Tim, last year, Bill Mallory's team was on the other side of the calls, and he felt they got a raw deal, expressed his feelings. Received a $10,000 fine and/or a one-game suspension from the Big Ten for the remarks he made about the officials.
Just that far, but you watch again. This ball looks like it's loose before he gets to the ground. Here comes Batts. Now the ball's loose right there. It's out of his hands before he ever does hit. And then Maloney made the recovery. You're right about last year. He either faced a $10,000 fine or a game suspension. Took the game suspension and sat out the following week. What that did was add a little extra emotion and spice to this game.
4th down and 1. They're going for it. Quarterback sneak. And Green has the first down. And we hear some cheers from what's left of the 52,000 people that saw this game from the beginning. Well, the story says all Michigan.
Big right there. 2 turnovers that turned into points immediately. Then you look up here, this is total domination. 196 yards to 29 in the rushing game. If you can't run the football, you can't win, because running the ball opens up the passing game as well.
Very balanced Michigan attack as well. 1st and 10 for the Hoosiers. Play action, Green to pass. Completes it to Law out of the backfield. He's tackled at the 38-yard line.
Give Brett Law a lot of credit. With that shoulder injury he hurt last week, was not even thinking about playing today. Instead, Pride and Batts were going to go. Look at those guys. It's cold out here today, too.
ABC. Some of your friends?
Not mine. You think their moms and dads are proud of them sitting out there saying, I thought I taught him better than that, Oscar.
Hey, wait up. How warm is it out there? Definitely not 66. Green on play action. Runs it himself. Has a lot of real estate. And is forced out of bounds at the 45.
Got another first down, though. They'll move the change. It stops the clock with 13:36 left in the game.
Well, looking ahead just a little bit for Indiana. Next week they move on to play Wisconsin. They have a big job ahead of them. They've got to regroup. And they play at Minnesota, Iowa, Ohio State, and then at Purdue. That loss against Michigan State was very costly. They led in that game. Led big at one point. Bates in motion. Downfield they go to Lewis. And good safety play that time from Shante Peoples and Corwin Brown. Ty Law broke it up, though.
I'll tell you who really made the play. The weak cornerback, Ty Law, read it and came across. Watch this now. This is a well-thrown ball. And without great coverage, it's a completion because he hits him right in stride. Look at Green. I mean, you can almost count the revolutions. But then right there is Ty Law, number 22, and almost had the pick.
Ty Law looked like L.A. Law that time.
What they do is they get that great break on the ball. You know, Iowa's Hayden Fry said this was the best Michigan team he had ever seen.
A man who knows a bit about football. 2nd down and 10. Pass complete to the tight end, Ross Hales.
Hales is having a big afternoon. 7 catches, 51 yards.
Coleman Wallace made the tackle. Tremendous rushing defense, too, for the Wolverines. 67, 52, 70, 60, and 38 yards, respectively, against those opponents.
I'll tell you this. When you hold opponents under 100 yards rushing 5 straight weeks, that's saying something. Todd Collins warming up. It'll be a treat to watch him play.
Yeah, I saw him a couple of weeks ago against Iowa. 3rd down and 4. Here's Law. And he takes it across midfield to the 48-yard line. And Elvis putting in a good day's work this afternoon.
Sure did. 13 for 17, 132 yards.
Came into the game, Tim, needing, I believe, 176 yards to become Michigan's all-time leading passer. So that'll have to wait a week. He's gunning for Jim Harbaugh's record. A pensive Gary Moeller on the sidelines. We have a timeout. with 12:10 remaining in the fourth quarter. Michigan leads 31-3. No, we are not in Ann Arbor. We are in Bloomington, Indiana. But a lot of Michigan people made the trip. 5.5-hour drive to watch their team. They lead 31-3 with 12:10 remaining. Flags down, and it looks like motion against the Hoosiers.
Clay
It's been
Williams,
that kind of afternoon for them.
Clay Williams again. That'll be his second of the day.
Dead ball. False start. Offense. 5-yard penalty. 4th down.
You know, with a pause in the action, we want to pass along our best to Joe Jeanette, who turns 86 years of age today. The dad of our fearless director, Jim.
And Michigan alum.
Well, let's see. He went to Michigan. That would have put him back in the days of Tom Harmon, Elroy Hirsch, Pete Elliott.
Mercury Hayes will watch this one bounce at the 25, and it takes a Michigan bounce back to the 28-yard line. 24-yard punt. Sunny skies, but a 31-3 Michigan lead. From the Did You Know files, former Indiana running back Anthony Thompson is the only player in Indiana football history to have his number retired. 1989 first-team All-American is the Hoosier all-time leading rusher. And now with the Los Angeles Rams in the NFL.
5,300 career yards for Anthony Thompson, an average of almost 5 yards a carry. Quite a runner.
A lot of real estate. Making real green now. Todd Collins in a quarterback, and a nice reception by Toomer. Went up high, climbed the elevator to the top floor, and made the catch.
Todd Collins gave him a high ball that time, but he went up and got it. He is a terrific passer. You know, he threw for over 3,000 yards and 33 touchdowns, leading his Massachusetts high school to the state title. Just his motion, the way he moves. Toomer made a pretty good catch, too.
From the same hometown as Matt Rogers, the former Iowa quarterback.
Sign of things to come. Sophomore throwing to the freshman.
A handoff to Davis across the 40 to the 43-yard line. You know, had a chance to spend some time with Todd Collins a couple of weeks ago before the Iowa game, and really nice young kid. Very big, very strong, almost built like a linebacker. 6'5", 240 pounds. Look at Elvis Grbac.
That's what Elvis has to look forward to next week. He'll pass Jim Harbaugh in the record book. He already is Michigan's all-time leader in attempts, completions, and touchdown passes.
A handoff to Davis again. He's tackled about a yard behind the line of scrimmage by Jay Davis. Davis leading the team with 5 sacks coming into this ball game. Steve Everett, the center, doing a great job. You know, Tim, Everett had his jaw broken. We all know about that, and he had it screwed in and wired in. He was eating dinner with his parents a little while ago and felt something hard in his mouth, thought it was the food. Turns out that one of the screws came out while he was eating.
Oh, nice story.
Yeah, so his father says he's got a screw loose.
You know, I remember his freshman year, he broke his hand, his right hand, so he snapped the rest of the season with his left hand. He's talented, tough.
Great athlete.
Best ever, perhaps, at the University of Michigan, All-American. He's also an artist. He's got that artist disposition, too.
Playing
very
center.
mellow, very mellow.
Malvo with the reception across midfield down to the 48-yard line, and Everett is favoring that right thumb of his.
He's always dinged up. You know, this is one of those guys that he gets hurt. He broke his hand, we told you, so he snapped with his left. Then next year he broke his left hand and he went back to his right. And he had that jaw screwed together, and now he's got that thumb banged up.
Handed off to the tailback, Jesse Johnson, tight-roping it down the sideline, stepping out of bounds at the 45.
You know, Mark, coming in, this was the 5th best rushing attack in the country. I think with Desmond Howard gone, the offense now is more balanced, if you can believe that.
They're showing it, too, running and passing the ball well this season. Boy, one of the most exciting players in the country has to be David Palmer of Alabama. Great punt return. First down and 10, 9.5 to play. Collins to pass out of the backfield in the flats to Jesse Johnson. And Johnson is tackled at the 43 by Morse Richardson and John Miller. Next Sunday, it's an international figure skating spectacular. Olympic medalist Nancy Kerrigan, top American Todd Eldridge, and the dynamic Kala Urbanski and Rocky Marvel compete against some of the world's hottest young stars. Sudafed Skate America International begins next Sunday at 4 Eastern, 3 Pacific on ABC Sports. It looks like Michigan has played this game on skates all afternoon. If you're Indiana, skating circles around it. Ball down to the 35. Ed Davis again, the freshman.
Just keep bringing the young kids in. You know, Michigan has a tradition of great receivers. Desmond Howard, Greg McMurtry, John Colser was here, Chris Callaway, Anthony Carter. We saw him earlier in one of the flashbacks. A lot of terrific receivers.
8:20 to play in the fourth quarter. Todd Collins seeing his first action of the afternoon, his first series here. It's Davis again. This time he's stacked up short of the first down, right at the 35. Chris Dyer, the free safety, made the tackle that time as Davis will check out. Michigan, meanwhile, next week takes on Minnesota Golden Gophers. After that, it's a trip to Purdue, at Northwestern, Illinois, and as always, the big one against Ohio State to end the season. It might not be such an important game this year. Ohio State struggling. They're going for it on first down. Fourth and short, the fade pattern. Mercury Hayes incomplete.
Outstanding coverage by Richardson, because that was a well-thrown ball, but Richardson was in his hip pocket all the way and turned his head at the very last second to knock it away. Very nicely done.
Tried to hit Mercury Hayes, the freshman.
I say he's in his hip pocket. Look at this, playing him inside out. He's got his hand there to let him know where he is and looks back and goes after the pick. See, that's when Hayes turns to a defensive back then. Now he's the defender, tries to knock the ball away and push him down.
Didn't quite get the separation there. Not quite. So Indiana takes over at the 36-yard line.
Got even, but he wasn't leaving.
It was like the Bates Motel. He checked in. Had to stick around. John Pacey now in at quarterback. He's only thrown one pass. 6'3", 210-pound sophomore. Boy, everyone's got their opinions here, huh? Pacey out of the backfield to Batts. And the freshman puts his hat on a Michigan player and makes it down to the 43-yard line. So Pacey is now 2 for 2 on the season. Well, looking at the Big Ten standings now, this is including Penn State, of course. Michigan, the only undefeated team.
Of course, the Nittany Lions don't actually start Big Ten play until 1993. They were upset today by Boston College.
Flag down on the play. Here's Batts. Yeah, Tim, you bring up a good point, too. When they come into the conference officially, and already they are a member, but what happens to recruiting after that? How does that change the pendulum of recruiting power throughout the East?
I don't think it changes at all. If anything, I think Penn State maintains its level.
Offense. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Repeat second down.
And I say that for this reason. By coming to this conference, Joe Paterno has decided to stay on longer, where he was actually thinking about retirement. As long as Joe Paterno's there, they'll have quality players from the East.
Mr. and Mrs. Elvis Gerback still in the building.
His name had nothing to do with Elvis Presley. I mean, really, he was not named after Elvis Presley. A lot of people think that. It's their European heritage, and that name is quite common over there.
Second down and 13. Pacey back to pass, make it 3 for 3. Bales, the tight end, out to the 41-yard line. He was tackled by Bobby Powers. Bales 8 catches today for 58 yards. Scores from smaller schools around the country. Northern Michigan losing to Hillsdale. St. John's and Central also winning. Minot and Dickinson State tied at halftime, 6 apiece. And Kearney leading in their battle. The pass is complete to Beatty at the 41-yard line, almost intercepted.
Boy, I tell you, Pacey fired that thing too. He had to. That ball had velocity. Had it not, it would have been picked off.
That brings up 4th down for the Blue Shirts.
And that's Beatty's first reception of the day. A guy that was usually a lot busier than that coming into today's ball game, but they put the clamps down on him.
Beatty came in as the second leading receiver, 26 receptions. At 27 now.
Well, there's a timeout down on the field as Indiana gets set to punt. 4:59 remaining. Back in Bloomington, Mark Jones along with Tim Brandt. 4th and 4, and Shannon Rutledge into punt. Mercury Hayes back deep, standing on his own 15-yard line for Michigan. Almost blocked. And here's Hayes. Almost found an alley up the sidelines. And is out to the 37-yard line. Toomer with a nice return of 15 yards after the 37-yard punt. We'll be right back. Eastern on ABC. And don't forget to call your cable operator to hook up your pay-per-view option.
Yeah, Winnebago out there has a satellite dish. If we're watching the game.
Might be. And this is Walter Smith on the end of the Todd Collins pass out to the 39-yard line, tackled by Morse Richardson. Smith last week did a good job of running the ball. Coming into the game, had 12 receptions for 141 yards.
Clock continues to move. If there is a positive, it's that Indiana's held Michigan scoreless this half. At least that's a moral victory.
And since that opening drive of the ball game for them, it has been all uphill. Handoff to Jesse Johnson. And Johnson has the first down at midfield out to the 49-yard line before he's tackled by Chris Dyer, a pickup of 11 yards. We have 4:01 to play. Most of the damage done by Michigan in that second quarter.
They exploded with Wheatley, but again, we tell you it's a positive that Indiana's been able to shut down the Wolverines in the second half. Jesse Johnson's a good-looking running back. Just had that last carry. Ran for 72 yards last week. Had 168 yards against Iowa last season. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. First down and 10. Michigan, though, scoreless here in the second half. Collins into the teeth of the Indiana zone, and it's incomplete. Intended for Malveaux. Now, Tim, let's go inside the mind of Gary Moeller for a second. Are you concerned that they haven't scored here in the second half? I mean, yeah, it was an impressive first half, but you haven't put any points on the board in the second frame.
No, I don't think he's concerned at all. If anything, he is now just trying to keep the timing down. I mean, scoring is not a priority right now. It's just melting the clock and getting out of here with very few injuries and keeping the guys sharp while they have a big lead.
Just saw the drop-off that has been a staple of Michigan's offense in the second half this year. A big run here by Davis. Cuts it back down to the 20. Davis with a nice run down to the 12-yard line, showing good balance and speed. And they just keep coming at you in waves. A pickup of 38 yards. Richardson and Mickens made the tackle for Indiana.
Ed Davis, the tailback, another good one, but look at the block, and they seal it off. He's got that big alley, gets back into the secondary. Now it's a foot race. Try to get some pressure out of the safety. He misses the tackle. Davis now looking for help from the big linemen that are coming downfield. One thing Michigan does, they will put a hat on you. They get downfield quickly. They're throwing blocks from the time the play starts until it ends.
Hayes in motion. Little counter here to Jesse Johnson. Runs over a tackler. And near the first down marker at the 3-yard line. Chris Dyer finally wrapped him up. Whether it's Davis or Johnson, Wheatley, Ricky Powers, it's all the same result.
Just watch the right side of the offensive line. Watch them engage and then ride. Seal off, and look at this. You got Marinero coming over there, big 73, throws a block that frees him. And then Johnson breaks a tackle. Finally, Dyer is begging for help as he hangs on and gets a ride and takes him down.
First down and goal to go. Backside of the eye. Collins hands it off to Johnson, who's rocked at the 2-yard line.
John Pilch with a pretty good lick there for Indiana, the outside linebacker, number 43.
Tim, if you're Indiana, you'd like to have some kind of success before the game ends here. Even if it's cosmetic. I think it's extremely cosmetic.
I think it's a fair assessment. I think they've been trying the entire game. They've just been outmanned. It's one of those games where, yeah, you don't want to quit, and they haven't. As a matter of fact, that's what we were trying to say by holding scoreless in the second half, although Michigan now really pushing this thing.
Jesse Johnson stacked up again at the 2-yard line, the second consecutive strong play by that Indiana defense.
Indiana came into this game. They wanted to pinch the perimeter and let the linebackers fill the middle. In other words, have the outside guys coming in hard so that Wheatley and the tailbacks from Michigan would run between tackle and tackle and leave that up to the linebackers. That time, Mills came from the outside. Whittington came from the outside. They did force it back in, and they got good pressure to shut the play.
Third down and goal now. 1:37 to play. He in motion. Collins the toss to Johnson, and he doesn't get in for the third consecutive time. Tripped up inside the 1, but about the foot line. Well, if time permits, stay tuned for the Thrifty Car Rental postgame report featuring scores and highlights from across the country, and we will have time to get you those scores.
4th down and 1. You've got a minute left in the game. Do you go for the touchdown here?
That's what they're doing.
I don't know. They don't need it.
Well, execution. Work on some situations, I guess, the thinking here by Gary Moeller.
Indiana fans booing.
And they hold them.
They not only hold them, Indiana gets the ball back.
Touchback being signaled.
So Indiana salvages some pride here, stopping Michigan down at the goal line.
Boy, you know what? Joe Novak, the defensive coordinator for Indiana, he ought to go and slap every guy on the helmet and say, hey, congratulations. They could have quit a long time ago, down 31-3 with less than a minute to go, but they have a goal line stand against the 3rd-ranked team in the country. Not only that, but on 4th down and 1, they force the fumble, get it back, and they bring it out to the 20.
We're going to take a break with 44 seconds to go. Indiana ball when we come back.
Now, when the Michigan guys watch the films of this play right here, they're going to give Shea Foster, freeze it right there. Look, here's the ball, and Shea Foster gets the ball hit right there, and watch this. Johnson loses it. Ball's loose. So now Shea Foster, 6'2", 240, they're going to say, hey, we got to work on this.
Get that down to 230, huh? The pass complete by Pacey out to the 40-yard line. Eric Matthews with his first reception of the day. And a pickup of 20 yards. 36 seconds to play. Pacey's lighting it up here since he's come in. It's 4 for 4, 36 yards. And Pacey goes down this time at the 32-yard line.
Well, Michigan goes to 5-0-1, still unbeaten. Well, they'd like to have that 17-17 game over Notre Dame all over again.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Elvis would like to have a few passes back, too. Write a check. This one's over. Pacey ends the game just as it started. That boom you heard was Michigan resoundingly thumping Indiana 31-3. And head coach Gary Moeller improves to 30, 29, and 4 overall in his career. Michigan now 5-0-1 on the season. The Chevrolet most valuable players of the game are Tyrone Wheatley from Michigan, who ran the ball very well this afternoon, had a couple of touchdowns, and Ross Hales from Indiana. Chevrolet will donate $1,000 to each school's general scholarship fund to reward outstanding students for their academic achievements and to assist those in financial need. That's all from here. We'll be back with the Thrifty post-game report right after this.
The pep rally will be about 6:30 p.m.